What's up, Throttlers? Aristotle Full Throttle here, and I hope you have your coffee with you, because we're going to have a little chat today. Bring your coffee, bring your friends, tell your wife, tell your kids, because it's going to be a fun one today. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle. If this is your first time here, subscribe, like, share, and if you comment, looks, it sounds like we've got some feedback going on here. But if you comment on these videos and you are subscribed to my channel, you're hearing an echo. I'll be right back. 1 second. Little technical difficulties. It's okay. We're just kind of very relaxed over here at Aristotle Full Throttle. That's what we do here. We just have a good time. We hang out with friends. Hey, Ismael. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys are caught up with the news. I don't know if you saw the Oscar nominations came out about a week and a half ago. You've got Obi-Wan news. Obi-Wan is in the news. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that David Lynch movie that's on Netflix right now. Netflix is doing some weird stuff. I don't know how you feel about the Netflix documentaries in general, but I feel like they're getting just longer and boringer. Like I was watching one on pandemic, and I think they make episodes just to make more episodes. Because I was watching the first episode and nothing happens. Nothing happens. They're like, sometimes there's a pandemic. And it sucks. And people die. And that went on for 40 minutes. And then like, stay tuned for episode 2. All right, I'm just waiting for tricklers to come in. Trickle into the room. The Irishman. I don't know if you guys have watched The Irishman, but I saw a joke about The Irishman because it's very long. Someone said if you started at 5:43 p.m. on New Year's Eve at midnight, I couldn't tell you whether it's over or not. Have you guys seen The Irishman? Let me know. I'm kind of afraid to start that. It seems like a long movie to start. Seems like I need to commit. I don't know if I can commit that long. Let me know if you guys have your coffee. We're going to start talking about all the crazy stuff. I don't know if you saw some of the stuff. If you saw my live stream last week, I was talking about the Duel of the Fates, the Star Wars proposed screenplay by Colin Trevorrow, which never came out. They never produced it for myriad reasons. Probably because Colin Trevorrow had a falling out with Kathleen Kennedy. Also, one of the main stars died, Carrie Fisher, which is very sad. But they just didn't produce that movie. And in my opinion, it looked like it was going to be a much better movie. Someone actually is going to make an animated version of that screenplay, which I'm looking forward to. And speaking of Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor last summer was announced that he was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi in a TV series on Disney+. They were going to make 6 episodes of this. But apparently, they've kind of refashioned what they're going to do with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And they're going to make 4 episodes. And it's not going to be quite the same. I think they're just rewriting it because apparently Kathleen Kennedy thought that it was going to be too similar to The Mandalorian with the whole Baby Yoda situation. I guess Obi-Wan was going to be looking at after young Luke and young Leia. It's like, did we really get the impression that Luke knew Obi-Wan all that well? I mean, I guess he was like his crazy old uncle in the desert. What are you guys doing? What's up? Just going to tweet this out. See if more of you guys show up. It's going to be fun. Usually we have Will, we have K-Ferg, we have Kara joining me every week. Thought I'd give you guys a shout out. So what do you guys think about Obi-Wan Kenobi? What about the delay? Do you think that that is a sign that they might not even make it? I think the Star Wars movies have been coming out a little bit too rapid fire in rapid succession. People think, oversaturation. I've heard the argument that there's oversaturation of the Star Wars movies in the marketplace, but at the same time, you could say, well, isn't there oversaturation of the Marvel movies? Not really, because the Marvel movies maintain an interest and they keep being interesting. So I think the problem with Star Wars is they need to make them more interesting. You can do anything in the world of Star Wars, people. You literally can do anything. I don't know if you guys agree with this. Let me know in the comments. I'm watching your comments as I talk. But I don't know if you guys agree with this, but Star Wars is a universe in which you can literally just go like, this guy has a pirate ship for a head, and this person over here can move things with their mind and also do anything with their mind. Because it's the world of Star Wars. It's a huge galaxy in which you could do any possible thing that you can possibly imagine. It is like so rife with stuff you can do. It drives me mad that they just keep doing the same thing. I think it's too safe. I think you need a genius like George Lucas coming up with the ideas, and then maybe people translating those ideas into screenplays and directing them, because George Lucas isn't quite the director he used to be. He isn't quite, I mean, movies just aren't the same as they used to be. So that, you know, you can't really fault George Lucas for making weird, boring movies. You can just say, well, movies have changed and they've moved on from his style of filmmaking, even though he was a genius and changed the whole idea of what it is to watch a movie. When you go to the movie theaters used to just be old converted opera houses. And George Lucas was like, oh no, we need to line the walls with speakers and create a proper like area in which you can screen the film and have seating in a certain fashion so that everybody can see the movie. That was all George Lucas. THX sound, THX 1138 was George Lucas's first student film, and then he created an actual feature-length film based on that, starring Boo Radley, Robert Bob. I think his name is Robert Bob. He's in a lot of movies. He's in The Godfather. This mug keeps everything hot. It's really great. I highly recommend it. This is not a sponsored video. Actually, none of my videos are sponsored. Although, you can get t-shirts. If you go to Teespring and look up Aristotle Full Throttle, you can get my t-shirts. Maybe I'll put a link to that below. But there are going to be more t-shirts. I'm going to design more t-shirts. I'm going to have a whole clothing line, guys. It's going to be fantastic. You can be decked out in your Aristotle Fro gear and emulate what you're seeing here. Is there something in my hair? You could turn your head into a big fur ball like this one right here. Just cover it in fur. Like an Ewok, like a Munchie-Chi. Who remembers the Munchie-Chis? Say aye. So I'm a little bit wary about the Obi-Wan series. I think Ewan McGregor, I trust in him. Funny thing about Ewan McGregor and the Star Wars series is that pretty unanimously people think that the prequel series are kind of crap, but there is absolutely no debate or argument whether or not Ewan McGregor is a good Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everybody's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm fine with Obi-Wan being Ewan McGregor. Nobody has an issue with that. That is the only thing that is carried over. That casting. Brilliant casting, and that's about it. Although, I think it was brilliant casting to put Samuel L. Jackson in the prequels, because he even requested to be in the prequels, because Samuel L. Jackson in the 90s notoriously was on talk shows saying, George Lucas, I heard you're going to make prequels to the Star Wars movies, put me in them. And then George Lucas actually responded in kind and put him in the movies. But then Samuel L. Jackson in the 90s, if you watch a lot of his 90s movies, he's very aggressive and loud. And then he's very atypical, counter type, if you will. He's against type in the Star Wars prequels because he's very calm and just meditative, which is cool. But then by the time you get to the Revenge of the Sith, he starts shouting at the Emperor and reflecting his Force lightning with his purple lightsaber. And he's like, I'm going to kick your ass because I'm Samuel Jackson. That is a stereotypical Samuel L. Jackson impression. Thank you very much. So who do we got here? Ismael, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your company. I'm going to start looking at the Oscar nominees in a second, but I want to know what you guys think about that David Lynch movie on Netflix. If you saw David Lynch, if you're a fan of David Lynch, first of all, you appreciate good coffee. One of the fun things about David Lynch is that he provides coffee for his crews in his movies. Whenever he's making a TV show or a movie, David Lynch makes and brews the coffee himself. He brews for the crews. David Lynch cannot tolerate bad coffee, and he is micromanager down to that level. Must be fun. Must drive him nuts when there isn't good coffee. I wonder how much coffee that guy drinks. I drink 1 cup a day to keep the doctor away. Still hot. Just to wrap up the Star Wars discussion, though, I think it's pretty funny because you've got 9 Skywalker saga movies. You got Rogue One, Solo, and the long and short of it, the whole, when all is told, the originals are better than all of the movies. You've got the originals. It's really sad. It's just like all of the hope and excitement of the prequels before they came out let down. All the hope and excitement of them possibly redeeming the prequels with the sequels, and meh. Overall, just meh. Pretty good. Fine. Find out what happens, I guess. Although I wish what happened was more along lines of the Colin Trevorrow script. But again, it was just a script. Was not a finished product. A lot of times, you always make 3 movies. When you endeavor to create a feature film, you make 3 movies. The movie that you write, the screenplay. The movie that you're producing on the day when you're on set, because things can change in the moment. You can improvise. You could change the lines. You can decide to cut scenes entirely. You could decide to let things go. You could find a new shot that wasn't in the screenplay. And then there's the edit. Turns out sometimes part of the movie didn't make sense, or you went into the edit and you're like, I need to shoot something extra to make this scene make sense. So you always end up with 3 movies, and it's the final cut that matters. So from screenplay to final cut, we will never know unless we watch the animated version that guy's making. I'm interested in that. Well, I'm having a good Saturday afternoon talking about some best picture nominees for the Oscars. Ford versus Ferrari. Haven't seen it. Out of the 2 of them, I drive a Ford. And one day, perhaps, we'll drive a Ferrari. If you keep watching. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, share. If you comment and you subscribe, you have a chance to win a PS4. Okay, guys? You could win a PS4. If you don't like or share or comment, you can't win the PS4. Who doesn't want a PS4? If I was watching a video and there was a guy who was befroed and bearded and drinking a cup of coffee saying, hey, if you push the like button and then you comment like, hey, you can qualify to win a state-of-the-art gaming system, I would do that because it would be easy. I'd just go, hey, and then I have now the chance to win. If you're just watching and you don't do any of those things, you can't win. You can't win. That's my motto lately. You can't win. Just got to keep playing. Play not to lose. The Irishman, 15-hour movie. You can literally watch the actors age throughout the movie because it's that long. Jojo Rabbit. I saw that. I liked it. I knew it was going to get nominated for Best Picture because Taika Waititi, great director. I really enjoy his movies. I enjoy his quality of films. And the word has it that he might be developing a Star Wars movie, which I'm excited about. I did really enjoy the season finale of The Mandalorian, which was directed by Taika Waititi. And it has his style of humor in it. Yet people seem to be critical of the fact that it is now canon that that stormtroopers have bad aim. But come on now, we've watched all of the movies. Like literally R2D2 and C3PO are just walking like this while 15,000 stormtroopers are shooting and just completely missing. It's the Force. It's the Force that's helping them suck. Jojo Rabbit was very touching, poignant, and hilarious, but happy, sad. I love movies like Taika Waititi makes because they go from feeling very inspired and happy to very sad. So you don't really feel those emotions unless you feel that contrast, in my opinion, in his movies. Joker, that looks good. I mean, I saw it. Pretty good. Good movie. Solid representation of the character. I think that Joaquin is in every scene of that movie, pretty much. So it's very much from his point of view. A lot of people have issues with that movie, saying that some of it was just ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, all of it was ridiculous because it's an unreliable narrator. Joker, if you know, has a completely multiple choice history. There is no definitive history for the Joker, and the movie represents that well. Spoiler alert. Even the scene where the Wall Street types are singing Send in the Clowns. Every scene, if you note, in that movie, I'm going to rewatch it, but pretty much I could point out every scene has a moment where your disbelief is challenged. You want to suspend your disbelief, but then you're like, wait a second. Why would they know all the lyrics to Send in the Clowns? Wait, how many bullets are in his gun? Wait, did he really just kiss this woman and never really talked to her before? There's so many scenes like that in the movie where it's just complete storytelling, make-em-ups. Maybe perhaps inside Joker's head, maybe we're just not watching anything that's real. And that's what I like about it, because it is interesting, because I wonder what it must be like to have delusions, because the movie, I feel like, represents what it must be like to have a mind that is delusional. Because you don't know what's real and what's not real, and who said what. And if those voices are real that you're hearing in your head telling you to eat spaghetti at 3 a.m. Adam Driver, Marriage Story. Actually, he's nominated for actor in a leading role in that because, he's dope. He's super dope in that movie. Wait, is he nominated for that? Yeah, I think so. But Marriage Story, I saw that as well. Very good. Very powerful movie. A movie that I think that should be called Divorce Story. But it is a movie that is a beautiful movie about why you should never ever get married. I'm a proponent for that. Anyway, in my life anyway. I think it's good to just be cynical. Very cynical. 1917, I'm going to go see that. I want to see that. I hear it's really good. I hear it's one shot. Kind of like Birdman, except Birdman does jump time a little bit, but this movie, 1917, is supposed to be one long shot. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was one of my favorite movies of the year, actually, besides Endgame, of course. Endgame did not get nominated. Very sad, if I were to quote the president. Sad, exclamation point. I don't know why Endgame didn't get nominated for Best Picture. That was one of the best movies I've ever seen. And listen, I don't care if Scorsese thinks that Marvel movies are cinema or not. It's probably why it got snubbed. There are 10 slots for Best Picture, and they only chose 9 films. They could have just as easily picked Endgame for the 10th movie. I mean, come on. Movies are movies. You go to see a movie to tell a story about characters, and there are character arcs. All of those things are present in the Marvel movies. I will argue that forever. Mr. Scorsese, I don't care how tall you are. Parasite. I'm in the middle of watching that. There's just a lot of reading. I have to stop and read, so it takes me a long time. Actor in a leading role, Antonio Banderas. Pain and Glory. Antonio Banderas is a badass, or you can call him Antonio Banderas. That's what I used to call him, because he's pretty cool. He's desperado, man. He's very serious actor. Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's, I aspire to be Leonardo DiCaprio. Just got to get into like a bunch of crappy westerns. What do you think, guys? Me and Cliff Booth hanging out. Me just like sitting in the pool, learning my lines for the next day. That's the life, really. I felt like I live in Hollywood pretty much, basically. And when I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it really did remind me of actual people. There are echoes of that era in Hollywood. When I work on set, when I work at a studio, when I work with older folks, in their 60s and 70s, and dare I say 80s, there are people who still carry around that air of old Hollywood. And I really enjoyed seeing what it must have been like in their heyday. Adam Driver is quite amazing in Marriage Story. You guys, Adam Driver single-handedly saved the Star Wars, or at least makes the Star Wars sequels watchable with his acting. Daisy Ridley's good. I think that John Boyega is freaking fantastic, but they just don't use him well enough in those sequels. You gotta watch. If you guys watch Pacific Rim 2, well, I don't know what it's called, Pacific Rim Job, I think. If you watch that movie, you can see John Boyega just chew scenery. Like he's just talking and just grabbing the mise en scène, if you will, and just eating it because he's so good. He's such a good actor. He's bigger than that movie. And then you see Scott Eastwood. I wonder why Scott Eastwood is in that movie. I wonder if it's because he shares the last name and face of his father. But Scott Eastwood walks into the scene like a piece of cardboard, and John Boyega is just kind of talking and chewing him. Just eating Scott Eastwood alive in that movie, because Scott Eastwood is not a good actor, and John Boyega is. Getting back to Adam Driver, though. Adam Driver is probably like the best actor of his generation, and the world is just waking up to that right now. Joaquin's a little bit older. Joaquin kills it. I can't think of many actors that could carry a movie like Joker from beginning to end. So Joaquin is also nominated for Best Actor. Jonathan Pryce, The Two Popes. I love Jonathan Pryce. Watched that guy since Brazil. Terry Gilliam's Brazil. Also, Terry, the other Terry from I'm going to pour a little bit of coffee out for, what's his name? Terry from, this is embarrassing. I got sidetracked. I'm going to stop and think about it. Terry Jones from Monty Python. He died this week. Very sad. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but Terry Gilliam was from Monty Python. He did all the animations, became a director, directed Brazil with Jonathan Pryce. And Robert De Niro, by the way. Fantastic movie. Very bizarre. It's in the trilogy of the aging movies. It's Brazil, Time Bandits, it's Time Bandits, Brazil, and then The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. If you watch those movies in order, they depict the 3 stages of life: childhood, adulthood, and old age. All directed by Terry Gilliam. Very bizarre and fun movies. Leaves you with weird feelings. I would say that when I watched Time Bandits as a kid, at the very end, spoiler alert, there's a moment that is just a shocking moment for children to see. And I was a child and I saw it, and I was just like, I still feel weird. I felt weird ever since that moment. But Terry Jones, very funny, integral member of, one of the only members of Monty Python. And there's a very funny sequence in Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, where he just blows up and explodes and he's eating at this fancy restaurant. But I legitimately say, at least once a week, I can't eat another bite. I say that when I'm full. but I don't explode and vomit on myself. Jonathan Pryce is fantastic. Two Popes. Glad to see that he's being recognized at his advanced age, but yet brilliant. He's a Bond villain, by the way. Tomorrow Never Dies. Little Women is also nominated for Best Picture. I'm going to go see that this week. Little Women. Little Women. Best Actress nominees. Cynthia Erivo from Harriet. I want to see that. I actually have the screener. I'm excited to watch that. Scarlett Johansson, Marriage Story. She's just a ringer. You bring in Scarlett Johansson, she's always going to do a good job. She's always going to do like a better job than most. She's been acting since she was a child. So she's quite good in that. Charlize Theron in Bombshell. I want to see that. She actually really looks like Megyn Kelly. It's kind of creepy. I'm like, I kind of forget what Megyn Kelly looks like. But then I remember, if she looks a little bit hotter, it's probably Charlize Theron. Renee Zellweger as Judy Garland. Judy Garland, man, oh my God, she must have been a very complicated person. So in order to portray her, I really want to see a portrayal of that. She was notoriously abusive and alcoholic, which reminds me of my last relationship. But she is probably really good in that, because you know what? The Academy really loves when people portray real humans. So you've got Saoirse Ronan in Little Women. I don't know if those Little Women were real or if they were little, but Cynthia Erivo, Charlize Theron, and Renee Zellweger all playing real people. All right, supporting role actors. Tom Hanks. T. Hanks. Thanks. He is nominated for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Still have yet to see that. I'm really glad I'm doing my Oscar show right now. I haven't seen any of the movies. But I'm going to watch a few of these each week, and we're going to have updates. So you guys can keep tuning in, and we'll talk about it. Anthony Hopkins, The Two Popes. Why does Anthony Hopkins get supporting role? Oh, because he plays Pope Benedict, and he's kind of like the lesser pope. My question is, if the Pope is infallible until death, and then the Pope gets demoted to not Pope, like Pope Benedict, and then there's another Pope, like Papa Francisco, Pope Francis. They're both infallible, but there can only be one Pope. It's like the Highlander. Do they have to do a cage match to see who's the real Pope? And then who loses if they're both infallible? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. It seems kind of crazy. Al Pacino nominated for The Irishman. The Irishman is so long, they're probably all the people in that movie are going to be nominated for the next 5 years. Joe Pesci. Oscar talk. Yes. Welcome, Will. If you're just joining us, Will, we're talking about the Oscars. I should probably mute my phone, but you guys have heard notifications before. You'll be fine with that. What is your pick, Will, for Best Picture? And why wasn't Endgame nominated, Will? You tell me. I think Endgame was a fantastic movie. I think it should be nominated for Best Picture. I don't care. I don't think it should win Best Picture, but I definitely think it should have been nominated for Best Picture. When I walked out of that movie, I was jazzed. Like, I had jazz hands for hours and hours, for days. My one biggest regret is not going to see Endgame every night that weekend just to relive the audience experiencing it for the first time, because that was one of the most exciting movies I've ever been to. Brad Pitt, my man. Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Brad Pitt is like my idol. If I could be Brad Pitt, I would be up on your roof adjusting your antenna right now. Not wearing a shirt. At 50 some odd years old. Good Day in the Neighborhood is well put together. Tom Hanks is kind of a deal breaker. Haven't seen Two Popes, The Irishman. You're ageist. Don't be ageist. 1917. Oh, I gotta watch 1917 then. I'll go see that tonight. Actress in a supporting role. Kathy Bates. She is fantastic. Um, Kathy Bates is just, she must be completely insane in real life because she does not appear to be the same person in any movie that she does. She's so good. She must have 15 personalities knocking around in her head. Laura Dern in Marriage Story. She's very good. Very stern. Stern Dern. I'd say that I liked her. I liked Laura Dern. I might even have a little thing for Laura Dern, and that's not too un-PC for me to say. Laura Dern is something about her. It's about her very strong presence. She's good. I might have a chance because she was married to Ben Harper, and he and I don't look that much different. Laura Dern, if you're watching, call me. Let's see. Kathy Bates is always good. That's a true fact. I would not disagree with that. And look at this. Scarlett Johansson. What did I say earlier? Scarlett Johansson nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Jojo Rabbit. That means she's not going to win either of them, which is good and bad. But she will win eventually. She's Scarlett Johansson. She's gonna keep getting nominated, and if she doesn't win, she's gonna win for Lifetime Achievement at some point. Marriage Story, I recommend it, but bring a box of Kleenex with you because you'll laugh until you cry, and then you'll cry until you die. That's kind of the movie that is. It's really sad. Moral of the Marriage Story: don't ever get married. Holdo maneuver. Yeah, that's true. That does bring new meaning to the Holdo maneuver. What do you guys think about that in Rise of Skywalker? The Holdo maneuver, them just sort of glossing over, oh, well, we can't do the Holdo maneuver. That's like 1 in a million shot. We didn't need to have that explained to us. We kind of knew that was like, holy crap, that'll only ever happen once. Listen, guys, again, I'm going to defend The Last Jedi right now. Sidebar. The Last Jedi brought us so many amazing moments. Not only did it bring us Luke walking through those blast doors that were on fire to go face down an army single-handedly and then fight Kylo Ren, but the Holdo maneuver. When, was it General Holdo launches her ship into Snoke's cruiser, or Snoke's ship, the main ship, and destroys the fleet. Come on. And it goes pretty much silent. The air just like left the theater when I watched that 7 times in the movies. It's just an incredible cinematic feat to pull that moment off. And Rian Johnson did it. If you don't like The Last Jedi, it's because I don't know why. It's fine. It's your opinion. My opinion is it's a superior movie to most of the Star Wars movies. It's up there with like just under Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion. As far as cinematic quality, you got J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies, and they're just like, they're fun rides. But cinema. Star Wars changed cinema. I think having Dominic Moynihan say it was a bigger offense. Yeah. Having Mary be like, what about second breakfast? Or whatever. Or was that, I forgot. That wasn't Mary. But yeah, having Mary say that because he's your friend. Having, what was his band's name in Lost again? Screwdriver or something like that? I love that character, actually, in Lost. Still hot. Someone mentioned the celebration at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Imperial destroyers wrecked as if they executed more Holdo maneuvers. Yeah, there's just like a lot of problems with the Rise of Skywalker because if you watched, I don't know if you remember at the end of Return of the Jedi, but the Death Star got completely pulverized into like little tiny bits. There weren't like whole pieces that kind of fell off of the thing and then landed on the moon of or Endor itself. That is just ridiculous. Margot Robbie in Bombshell. I want to check that out. Still got to see Bombshell. Florence Pugh in Little Women. Pretty cool. Animated feature. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. Haven't seen it. I Lost My Body. I haven't seen it. Klaus. Haven't seen it. Missing Link. I haven't seen Toy Story 4. I don't really want to see it, to be honest. Cinematography. Now this is a legitimate Oscar, okay? A lot of people don't care about the cinematography. But if you think about it, movies are a story in pictures. If you're going to tell the story in pictures, you need a good cinematographer. You need someone to actually help you. There's the director, there's the screenwriter, there's the editor. Those are very important parts to a movie. Of course, the actors. But the cinematography is what is telling the story ultimately. If you can turn off the volume of a movie and still know what's going on, it really aids in the storytelling. A movie is a story in pictures. Everything's a story, actually, but a movie's a story in pictures. 1917, I just think it's going to win because of the feat itself of creating a one-shot movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there are some fantastic shots in that. The Lighthouse. I keep thinking of The Lake House with Keanu Reeves. Yeah, cinematography is hella important. I agree. Totally. You can't have a movie that, although cinematography is important, sound is also important. So movies are stories told in pictures, but also in sound. I'll put a little addendum on that. Because you can tolerate a movie that doesn't look good, but sounds good, but it's really difficult to tolerate the opposite. If something looks amazing and just sounds crappy and scratchy and in the background and muffled, you're not going to be able to last too long unless you turn the sound off. But if it's shot well, you can still follow the story. Yeah, Joker, I just love. What I love about the cinematography and just the art direction, costume design, and all about the Joker is it feels very painterly, very cohesive, very of the time. It definitely feels like 1980. Not that I know what 1980 feels like. I hardly remember. That's way before I was born. And it seems pretty legitimately of a different time and a different feeling. And the palette that they choose is very complimentary, very, very well done. Costume design. I feel like we're getting less and less important. Costume design, of course, makes or breaks the characters, too. If a character, the actor can be really, really good, but if they're not convincingly dressed up or at least fitted to what they're supposed to look like as a character, it can really challenge your concept of the movie. Though, I would say that we can suspend our disbelief even if the costumes suck. But the costumes for The Irishman, Little Women period piece, those are always favorites. Jojo Rabbit, everything looks really great. Stylized, but of the time. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, another period piece. Jojo Rabbit also. They're all period pieces, actually. All 5 of the costume design nominations. The Irishman, Little Women, Jojo Rabbit, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Joker. All not of this time. So I guess costume design, they always pick different times. Just remember to keep a magazine of what people were wearing at a time if you want to win best costume design in the future, and just order those clothes. Directing. Martin, what? How do you say this? Scorsese? Never heard of him. The Irishman for director. Joker, Todd Phillips. 1917, Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes has won it. Martin Scorsese has won it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino gets nominated every film he makes, basically. Never wins. He did win for screenplay and for Pulp Fiction. And maybe for screenplay a couple years ago, too. Parasite. Bong Joon-ho. Still want to finish that. Still don't know what the secret is of that. Don't spoil it. Joker nailed vintage save for the dust scratches and hairs on the celluloid. Yeah, That would have really added a little bit of dimension to the era. It would have felt like a film print from the time. But here's a funny thing. I actually learned that Larry Sher was the cinematographer for Joker. I'm going to go back to that. Or Mark Bridges. I guess Larry Sher is the cameraman. No, that's costume design. Let me go back to cinematography. Joker. Yeah, Lawrence Sher. I worked with Lawrence Sher on the second movie I ever worked on in my life, called Kissing Jessica Stein, and this is a while ago. This is like 2001. First movie I ever worked on, I was about 15 years old, let's say. And Larry Sher, he's a cool guy. I actually, a few years later, I was watching I Love You, Man, and they were showing the outtakes, and Lawrence Sher popped up, and I was like, oh, there's Larry in the outtakes of I Love You, Man. So this guy's been working since, and that might have been one of the first movies he ever did cinematography on, Kissing Jessica Stein. And I worked closely with him. I worked with him every day for like 6 weeks. And here's a little Easter egg. If you're watching Kissing Jessica Stein, there's a wedding sequence. And in the end of the wedding sequence, there's a guy doing the worm in the dance party. That's Larry. He threw on. We all did extra work that day. I was the key production assistant on that movie, and I had to bring in a shirt and a tie so that I could just kind of walk back and forth during the party sequence while I was working. But Lawrence Sher, congratulations, hats off to you. Cheers for getting nominated for cinematography on Joker. That's a good career, man. Yeah, just sitting here reflecting on knowing Larry Sher for he's come a long way, man. Awesome. Yeah, that was a second movie I ever worked on. Yeah, Teen Throttle. Wow. Getting nominated for such a big property. That guy he's just a workhorse. The guy never quits. There's actually a good video of Larry talking about cinematography and palettes in film done by either Vice or Vox or whatever on YouTube. YouTube that. It's actually really fun. Because I actually commented. I was like, hey, Larry, I remember you did the worm in Kissing Jessica Stein. Long time ago. Documentary feature. American Factory, Force, Honeyland, The Cave. I haven't seen any of those, so I have to watch the documentary. Short subject. I haven't seen any of those. Film editing. Very important category. Remember, there are 3 movies that you make every time you make a movie. The screenplay, that's the movie in your head. That's how you want it. That's how the idealized version so far is. There's the movie on the day. Things change in the moment. There's improvising. There's shots that change. There are sequences that are cut. There are sequences that are added. There are improvised scenes. There are just so many things that change while you're filming. The night before, you might come up with something, and the next day, you present it, and it's better than what was written. That's the second movie you make. The third and final movie that you make is the edit. So sometimes you've shot all of this stuff and you put it all together, and some things make sense, some things don't make sense. Sometimes you shot it according to the screenplay in a certain way, but then if you edit it out of the sequence of the screenplay, it makes a lot more sense and flows a lot better. So that's a totally different arrangement or composition than the original screenplay, yet it's a third movie. There are 3 movies that you make every time you make a movie. And editing, I think, is the highest form of filmmaking, in my opinion, because that's where the story comes together. That's where the shots come together, because you could shoot the most beautiful sunset as a cinematographer, but it could go on too long. Or it doesn't even make sense as part of the movie, and you just toss that in the garbage. So the editor, usually working very closely with the director, makes this movie that they make the movie. They make what you see as the final product in the theater. And it's the final say. A lot of times, here's a good tip. Editor will kick the director out of the editing room Because director will be like, that was such an amazing sunset. Why don't we just keep like 10 minutes of a sunset? And the editor's like, listen, director lady or director man, that goes on way too long. Or they might say, hey, director, leave the room, come back in half an hour when I've recut the scene. And the director can see it with all new eyes because the editor is thinking rhythmically usually, or thinking in certain ways, thinking in storytelling. And if you want to tell the story in the best way possible, get a good editor. I love editing. Editing's my favorite. If you like watching edited videos, I edit a lot in my videos. Go watch them, please. So best editing: Ford versus Ferrari, Joker, The Irishman, Parasite, Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit was edited really well. Joker has some cool editing things. Out of those two, those are the ones I saw, basically, out of those 5. International feature film, Parasite, probably going to win that. Makeup and hairstyling, Joker is getting nominated. I think Joker has the most nominations, which is funny because technically Joker is a super villain. And I think Joker was produced by Martin Scorsese, or at least some kind of auspices of Scorsese. And Scorsese is against superhero movies, so I don't, or Marvel movies at least. So I think Joker is going to really shift the tone in what we're going to see in movies as far as superhero movies now. They're going to just be like these dark character brooding pieces from now on. It'll be like Spider-Man. I have these powers and this responsibility. I'm going to go jump off a bridge. Music, also very important to a movie. Funny thing about original scores is that if you notice the music, it could be a bad thing. Star Wars has always been known for having a very... the music is synonymous with what you're watching because John Williams, he scored all 9 Skywalker saga, which is amazing. I think that James Earl Jones has made it all the way through those Star Wars movies, which is just fantastic. So, score, 1917, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, and Star Wars. Star Wars... I don't know if John Williams wins it every time, but I think he won a few years ago. John Williams has probably won the most original score Oscars. Original song. It's always my favorite. I wonder, though, like, if a lot of these songs were just laying around and they just said, hey, this is my song off my new album that's unreleased. Why don't you just put it in your movie and then it becomes nominated. Production design, super important. But the original song. Oh, there's an original song from Frozen 2. Interesting. Really, Scorsese had his name removed from Joker. Well, I don't want to be associated with relevant films, I guess. Come on, Scorsese. You made movies in the 70s that people probably said weren't good films, like Taxi Driver. They're like, what's going on here? There's a guy just talking in the mirror for half this movie, shooting up people. What? I don't understand. So listen, Scorsese, you gotta respect the new filmmakers. Todd Phillips, it's his best movie that he's directed. It's his best work as a director. I think that he has a ceiling, though. I think Todd Phillips has a ceiling, and it's the Joker. Production design, animated production design, a lot of the familiar faces here. Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jojo Rabbit, Parasite, 1917. It's going to go to probably 1917. Short film. Haven't seen any of those. Short film live action. Haven't seen any of those. Sound editing. So there's sound editing and sound mixing. Now, a lot of people don't know the difference between sound editing and sound mixing, but sound editing is kind of that finished, polished sound of things, of taking the sounds and creating sound effects and laying in sounds, doors slamming, cars exploding, just editing from scene to scene, just making kind of like seamless transitions and whatnot. or very seamed transitions. It's all depending on your taste. Then sound mixing is basically capturing the sound on the day. So capturing and also mixing it in with the other actors, and there's a little bit of leeway here, but I'm sure if you're a sound mixer, you could be a sound editor. But one is usually on location, one is usually in post. But you can also be a mixer and mix all those together. Visual effects. Now, visual effects and special defects, are different. Special effects apparently are very practical. They're like things that happen on the set, like someone's head exploding. Visual effects are created in post, generally speaking. Now, those are 1917, Avengers Endgame got a nomination, The Irishman, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and The Lion King. Avengers is going to get that. Just so many visual effects in that. And just convincing character. I mean, before Infinity War came out, I think we were all looking at Thanos going, is this gonna work? I was anyway. I was like, is this gonna work? Is this villain gonna work? By the end of Endgame, you're just totally on board with him being as real a character as anyone else in those movies. I mean, he's giant and purple, so that helps you suspend your disbelief, but I thought it was a pretty good visual effect. Writing, adapted screenplay. Adapted screenplay means based on a previous existing work. Or event, I guess. Like Jojo Rabbit, I suppose, is World War II. The Irishman, Little Women. Little Women is a book. The Two Popes. I guess there are two popes. And Joker. Joker is adapted from the comic book material. Mr. Scorsese. Writing, original screenplay. This brings us to our last one here. Original screenplay. Knives Out, Rian Johnson. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino. I guess because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood diverges from history a bit. That's why it's an original screenplay and not adapted. Marriage Story by Noah Baumbach. Very good, but very real to be an original screenplay. Parasite. Very cool. In 1917 by Sam Mendes. Interesting. 1917. Supposed to be World War I, but I guess. The Avengers for the de and re-aging. Yeah, Avengers there's just so many visual effects in that movie. Here's the thing I love about Marvel movies, and a lot of people have animus toward Hollywood and the whole Hollywood vibe, and they just don't realize how many artists are employed by Hollywood, especially Marvel. Think of all of the visual artists, all of the people creating concept art, all the people creating storyboards, visual effects. All of these people went to art school. They're all artists who are working. These are working artists. It is very difficult to be an artist and to have an income. I should know. So when you sit there and you poo-poo giant movies like Avengers Endgame, watch the credits of the movie. Don't watch the movie. Just go to the credits. The credits last for 10 minutes, and that's because those are 1,000 artists that are being employed gainfully to work on movies, to have a job as an artist. So before you go and poo-poo Hollywood, and before you scoff at it and say that these movies aren't art, all right, well, let's say you have a movie like 1979's Alien. You go, that movie is art. It employed many artists. H.R. Geiger designed so much of the stuff. And you've got Ridley Scott, very, very good craftsperson, very excellent filmmaker, artist. Great writers, great everything. But those are very few people. And those are the very few that get recognized. And frankly, all the people for Avengers Endgame who are artists working on that movie, they're not getting recognized. Yet their work is showing. And it would not be convincing were it not for talented and skilled artists. So on that, all of these Oscar nominations seem pretty legitimate, However, though, I think Avengers Endgame gets snubbed. I think there should be more Oscar categories created for such things. Like, this is what I propose to the Academy right here. There should be an Oscar category for Best Motion Capture Team. And that should include the performer as well as the animators, effects artists, and all of the people surrounding that. There should be an Oscar category for Best Motion Capture Team. Not just because there are actors like Andy Serkis who've been arguably, this Benjamin Button and all these different roles that like Brad Pitt had in motion capture, and they kind of visually enhance the performance, and they edit the performance, and they create a performance. If you look at Benedict Cumberbatch performing Smaug, go YouTube that right now. If you watch him performing the motion capture for Smaug in The Hobbit, it is full-on incredible work by the actor. However, there's a team involved. There are animators, there are all sorts of people. There are people shooting it, there are people animating it, there are people who are involved in the final product. So if you guys want to give credit to motion capture, give it to the Best Motion Capture Motion Performance Team. And the actor should go up there and accept the award with them also. Just like they give it to Best Picture, there's all the producers, all the people, they come up and they accept the award. Best Motion Capture Team every year, because that is just so integral in making movies today. I say this because a couple of good friends of mine, the Boxleitners, their father was in a movie called Tron. And the movie Tron was not nominated for Best Visual Effects in 1982 or 83 because they didn't consider computer graphics, computer animation, actual special effects in the early 80s because it was so new. They didn't know what to do, so they didn't even have a category for that. And I think the special effects went to E.T. or something that year, or they actually even snubbed The Thing. I think The Thing had like the most incredible special effects I've ever seen, but The Thing got snubbed for E.T. And the people who worked on the special effects for The Thing in the early 80s, they didn't sleep for years, just working every single day. Great documentaries on that, but they want to create a new category for the Oscars. Best Motion Capture Team. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Will, for joining me. Alita Battle Angel is kind of a snub for Best Visual Effects. Absolutely. That looked incredible just from because you know what? They don't know what to do with it yet. And I'm telling you what to do, Academy. Create a category. Best Motion Capture Team. Or Best Motion Performance. Best Motion Performance. And it should go to the group of people, including the actor, the performer themselves, who created that character for the screen. Because it's a feat in itself. It is a whole thing. I mean, if you look at the Hulk, Smart Hulk in Endgame, there's just so many great idiosyncrasies that make the Hulk convincing, because Mark Ruffalo has just these little facial tics, and he'll like lick his lip, or he'll just like his eye will twitch, and that's what makes us human. Those are the things that make us human. If you look at earlier animations of characters, it's just smooth and their eyes don't move. One of the first times, obviously the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original would have won for Best Motion Capture Team if they had the category, because Gollum, one of the coolest things I ever noticed, which was like the first thing I noticed that made him seem real, was that his eyes would scan the face of Frodo or the face of Sam. He'd kind of look, and his eyes would be moving around the face. And that's what we do when we look at each other. We don't just stare blankly into each other's eyes. We actually are looking at someone's face, kind of scanning, taking in information, and that's part of our communication. So, yeah, Banner as Hulk, Ruffalo could have got nominated. This year alone, Alita Battle Angel would have been nominated for Best Motion Capture Team. Thanos would have been nominated. Hulk would have been nominated. There are at least 5 categories every year for that. I'm sure there's a character in Star Wars that would have been nominated for that. Like, say, Lupita Nyong'o as as Nas Kanata. She would have been nominated. The Oscars, yeah. Next week, yeah, we'll talk about the Oscar snubs. That's a good idea, Will. Credit to Will. Thank you guys for watching. Hey, Kara. You just made it for me to do my sign-off. Thank you for joining me. You can watch it. This is going to be up on the channel, so you can kind of review and comment and suggest some topics for next week. Bring your coffee. Bring yourselves. Love you guys. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle. Remember to like, subscribe, share. You're going to win a PS4. One of you guys is going to win a PS4 if you comment. So remember to comment. Yep, we are nearing the end. Sorry, but the time is nigh to say goodbye. I've been Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro in the know with the fro, and I'll see you later.